And you are going to get invited to my house for Saturday night, and also you'll be invited to make some comment, write something. We're going to be putting up a website, which we don't have yet. So thank you so, so much for coming, and until the next time.
Have you been paying attention to Nick Hanauer? Have you been seeing him come to prominence, speaking about raising the minimum wage to $15? Interestingly enough, and it kind of relates to me, but I don't know how long ago, it was 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, he did that talk for TED, and they pulled it, they yanked it. It caused some uproar, not a huge uproar, but it caused some uproar because they said it was a political talk, and their purview is not to be political. And so as he rose to prominence and became a very important figure and had a lot of attention on him as the spokesperson for the raising the minimum wage to $15, all of a sudden Ted recanted and apologized, or I don't know if they apologized, but they made a show of appreciating him, reinstating his talk into their canon. And that's of interest to me because some of you don't know some of this background from me, but I produced an event for TED last year, and do people know that there was a huge controversy going on last year in the whole TED world? All of a sudden TED pulled its parameters in about what was acceptable on the TED stage, and I had become a TED producer after I was a movie producer, thinking, now what's my next platform? And I had always produced events and projects that had to do with consciousness. Personal growth is what we called it years ago, and then it kind of morphed into the word consciousness became more prevalent in that whole self-awareness kind of movement. And then, in fact, I had kind of moved on from that into this interest in our worldview, which is what is, you might say, our collective consciousness. How do we all think as a world about what matters? And that we were so stuck in materialism, and that greed was, ruling the day, became the kind of focus that I paid attention to. And how could we move from this self-interest and self-absorption and greed, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and how could we move into a sense of mutuality, which we so desperately need for our survival? All of a sudden we're talking about survival of the species. So I was looking around after I produced these movies for what my next platform would be. Prior to that, I had done a lot of salon kind of stuff, a lot of stuff like this. Very wonderful people have graced this living room. So having done the movie and thought, well, the movie was very consistent with my desires, by the way, even though you might think, oh, crop circles, UFOs, weird, trippy. The truth is that when I found out about this crop circle phenomenon, which is years ago now, back in the late 80s, they said they were landing pads for UFOs in England. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know much about UFOs. I'm, some guy in a diner about UFOs. They were no great interest to me. They come, they go, who knows? But these things don't come and go, they stay. And if, in fact, this is going to prove the UFO phenomenon, if there is other intelligence in the universe, and it's not just science fiction, but it's actually fact, that will change consciousness. That will be like Galileo moving us out of being the center of the universe to where we're just a little piece of a much bigger story. We're not the center of the universe as a planet, and now we would not be the only intelligence, which gives us a certain arrogance and superiority. And I don't know, I like doing big things. How can I change everything? That's just my nature. So that's why I got so involved with the whole crop circle situation. And after being plugged into the data and saying, wow, people are not paying attention to the data because all the data tells us that we're not making these. Something else is visiting us. So how do you tell the world anything? How do you, make noise in the world? You make movies. So I had been an actress, and it was, a natural, I was hanging around movie sets. My husband was a producer. And so I ended up making movies about crop circles. So I'm still on that. I haven't abandoned that. But, how much more can I say and how much more can I do? I needed a next platform. And so TED became my next platform. I got the license to do TEDx West Hollywood. And then last year, TED had this major pressure put on it by the organized skeptics of the world with the capital S. And all of a sudden they issued new directives about things that were not acceptable to be on their stage. And there was a lot of activity involved in that, and I was right in the middle of it all, and I got very, very damaged by what TED did. They pulled my license 2 weeks before my event was to go on. I lost all my funding, I lost all my sponsors, and I ended up putting on the event myself. The event was actually wonderful. I'm very proud of the event. Interestingly enough, this TED event, I thought, was going to be a more important TED event than all the other TED events, because we were really looking at how to change the paradigm. And all the talks were about how to get out of this narrow perspective where materialism rules the day. And they were evidence that we are really interconnected, we're interdependent, that greed is not the appropriate emotion to run our lives. And my program was so beautiful, and then to have it squelched by them. And I'm not finished dealing with TED, because I do want them to do what they did with Nick Hanauer. Just as they came back to Nick Hanauer and they said, uh-oh, shouldn't have marginalized you. You were saying something really important. I still want them to do that with me. And as you hear from me, I'm going to try to enroll you all in helping in whatever we can do along those lines. But here now I lost my platform. TED was going to be it. I was going to, take advantage of the fact that they are so visible, that whatever I did with TED would be seen, presumably. But now, lost my TED platform. Now what? And then I went to this event with Rich. He produced this wonderful event called Immersion 2014, and it was at Loyola. He was the chair of this conference that brought together all the great experts in this whole field of robots and mechanization. And he gave a keynote about the whole development from the cave people to where our bodies are full of artificial things and we're turning into machines and what have you. It was such a wonderful, wonderful talk. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to come back out with some new platform for myself. And this would be a wonderful, fancifully, after TED Talks, I got all kinds of advice or suggestions for what my next platform could be. And I rather liked Sue Speaks as opposed to TED, not opposed to, but after TED Talks. And Sue stands for Searching for Unity in Everything. Perfect. He actually coined that for me. So I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'll produce this same talk, this wonderful talk that you did, and that'll be my first program under this Sue Speaks. He said, let's do the development out of this robot mechanization situation for how does it affect things, not just what is it and these fascinating things that, we've evolved to, but where's the world? Well, it's the talk that, he ended up giving. And I thought, wonderful. That just thrilled me that I could be involved in getting, again, a big idea, a major thing, not just a little incremental something, but we need to be dealing with this. We need to be dealing with it as a world. If we don't deal with it, it's going to happen anyway, presumably. I mean, maybe there's an argument, but we'll hear if there is. But if he's right, and this is upon us, And we are, in fact, not going to have enough jobs no matter what we do. And we need a new economic system that's as big a change as when we went from hunter-gatherer to agriculture, a huge upheaval in our entire economic system. Well, that topic needs to be talked about so that we are prepared, so that we deal with it, rather than it gets worse and worse and then riots in the streets, whatever, as he spoke about in his talk. I thought, this is a perfect thing for my predilections, to try to do something that matters. And so, you know, in some ways I want to say, here we are. Let this be, you know, part of a group of really involved activist people. And as we framed the event we would do, we framed it both as an important communication and also an opportunity, because, you know, I used to, as I said, I used to do things like this a lot. And then I got involved in the movie, but then the computers took over. And, you know, while I was busy with the movie, everybody holed up at their computers, and there's no things, people don't get together anymore. We don't do these things. We don't touch each other anymore personally. I thought, well, hello, we're, you know, so here we are in my hopeful, you know, movement toward more and more of this kind of thing. And I like to think that we're all in it together. And I will stay in touch with you, and you stay in touch with me. And, you know, as we developed this talk, a lovely group of people came together, and actually came together because I called it before we did the talk, before we got so involved with the talk. It was kind of a possibility, and I said, come on, I've got to get more involvement with people I like and my friends. And so I actually sent something out to the people that I was most friendly with, and I said, let's once a week, my house is open. I want an opportunity for us all to come together and figure out things to do. And the do that came out of that was this talk. And so I'm still in that whole, you know, energy field of, hello, let's get a really activist community going. I love having things at my house. I love, you know, having opportunities and just the engagement with each other to help each other, not just to put on a talk for Rich or whatever, but all the things that we can all do for each other. And, you know, out of that, we've had a few months now of some get-togethers here, and many things have happened for many people. People have made wonderful connections. Things have been helped with their programs. People have been helped with their programs. And so I look forward to doing more of that as well. So I hope it's okay that I have taken this time for a more extensive introduction of, you know, what I'm up to and what I'm doing. And we did come together for Q&A here. I mean, the objective of coming here was to continue what we really didn't have time to do any further at the event itself. And so now, you know, my part's kind of, I'm going to recede into more of the background, and I'm going to really turn this over to Rich, who might want to say more about, I don't know if you want to preface it with some more things that you were thinking, because we've, you know, hashed over what went on and what have you, and some thought that there are actually two different talks. One is the situation that the world is in, and the other is his particular advocacy for the basic income guarantee. Maybe they're two separate things. What are we going to do with them? So I don't know how much more you want to say about what your thoughts are, but, you know, the call for the evening was Q&A. Mm-hmm. So we're certainly open for that, but I'm going to turn it over to Rich in case he wants to preface it with any more of the kind of things, you know, comparable somewhat to what I'm doing here. I think it's all yours now.